Fear rules our lives so much of the time. A creative fiction writer, a director of fiction, a friend of mine calls it, lives within us and tells story after story after story about the bad and scary things that will happen to us. The fiction writer doesn't even say that things might happen. A good writer knows how to inspire genuine feelings. So the fiction writer or the director of fiction tells us what things will happen. They speak with authority. They're like a prophet. They're a prophet that speaks and tells us bad, negative, horrible things that are going to happen to us. And made a note here in the margin, an effective intrapersonal creative fiction writer can scare the holy hell out of us.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking about Stephen King. He's like, the
there's cokehead
Stephen King.
Yeah. So the most important thing is that we recognize that we are responding to fiction. I am hearing a story that scares me is instantly an improvement over this horrible thing is going to happen to me. I'm screwed. What we're doing is we're differentiating with that. We're not being possessed by it, but we're saying, who am I? I'm the person listening to this scary story, and it's successfully scaring me.
I'd like to tack on there at some point the utility of the fear, the fearful voice or the fiction writer, because for so long, I understood it as a defense mechanism until eventually sussed it out that I wasn't actually being defended from much. It was actually like this inner assault that was taking place.
Oh, yeah. No, one of it in embracing fear, we need to understand that fear itself, it's we humans who have done something with it. All other species, really benefit from having fear. We are the only species that we know of that actually use that to scare the holy crap out of ourselves for no good reason. This is not an authentic part of me who's trying to help me out. It's a bot as much as my addiction is. And again, go back to what we define as the bots. The bots are the ones that basically, regardless of the circumstances, they're not going to be influenced to change what they're saying. Sometimes I'll be in conversation with somebody in therapy with something I think is a bot, a fearful, maybe negative, even a shaming voice. And I'll realize that character on the committee is kind of amenable to therapy. If it's Patrick Shame Monster, I'll say, well, do you care about Patrick? And a lot of times they'll go, no. Just like another human being, when somebody is role playing that and I'm asking them that question, I can kind of tell when there's a feeling there. Now, bots don't have feelings, so it says, yeah, I care about him. It's like, so I'll maybe ask a question like, so if there was a way to help him through this that didn't involve shaming him, would you be open to it? And that person may well not have known that before, but they will say, yeah, I think so. So all of a sudden I'm going, okay, we're not dealing with a bot anymore. And when the bot claims I'm doing this for your own good, my alcoholism would tell me the same thing. You want to go out with these people and not be drinking? Well, first of all, you're not going to be as good looking as you usually are, and you're not going to be a great dancer. Whatever it has to say. When we're talking about what we can do by not letting the director of fiction have the last word, is all we have to do is after we hear each scary story, and it may be repeated, but each time, one of the things, and this seems like a silly little thing, but it can make a difference. We have the last word, and the last word is simply this: maybe not. That's reasonable doubt. We leave open the option that horrible thing may not happen. Another thing we can do is to rely on our gratitude practice. We usually feel the anxiety before we have the thought about what it's about. And actually, we go looking for the source. And so we actually seek out the fiction. Sanity is defined in my terms here as congruence, that my feeling is going to match my circumstance. If I'm feeling anxious and there's nothing to be anxious about, that feels crazy. But if I can find something, I'm scared about that thing I'm supposed to do that I haven't done, or I haven't got that done, or I'm scared because that person is judging me or whatever, then that makes more sense. A lot of moving parts, a lot of different characters in our minds, but the conscious mind can only be with one at a time. So that, we covered that when we talked about the psychology of mantra. So in this case, the technique is don't look for things that cause fear, look for things that cause gratitude.
I was going to say, you're fairly tall, Thom. People who just see you sitting down don't know this, but I've seen you in person, and you're a nice height. I know of a bunch of short guys that would love to trade places with you.
That's right. That's good. Well, see, that's the one thing. That's the one thing that we said, when we finally met face to face, that I was aware that that's the one thing we don't know about each other. But when you know each other just over Zoom, is we don't know how tall people are. Even if it doesn't push the director of fiction out of the way entirely, it at least makes it more difficult for the director of fiction to hold your attention if you are in fact simultaneously looking over here for things to be grateful about, things that are basically the way I describe people a practice of gratitude is think about problems you don't have. Some of those are problems that you did have and now you no longer have them. I had a severe debilitating back pain for 4, maybe 5 years that really impacted my life a lot, and I finally found a way out of that. And it's there's not a day that goes by that I'm not aware of the things that I can do today that I thought I was finished doing, years ago. So that's one of those things. But I also think about, and sometimes I feel a little guilty with this one, but if I know of somebody who is sick, if somebody else has a diagnosis of cancer, it's like I also use that as an awareness that I don't. And it's very important if somebody is listening to that and identifies with it, that you are not using that properly. If you are using the fact that somebody has it worse to shame yourself, to say, how dare I think I have problems? It's like, that's not what it is. We all have the right and the need to bitch and moan. Dissatisfaction and gratitude coexist.